UCLA is a university with unlimited possibilities for students that desire world-class academics and research, unmatched diversity, incredible cultural and social opportunities, successful alumni and career networking, first-class campus facilities, plus America's top intercollegiate sports teams. Located in Westwood, just a few miles from the Pacific Ocean, UCLA's 1 square mile campus is surrounded by famous cities such as Bel Air, Beverly Hills, Brentwood, and Santa Monica.
Welcome to UCLA Bruin Talk. I'm Ralph Irvin along with Stephanie Wetmore, and in this show we're going to look at performance training and building up the athletes so that they're able to stay healthy while competing here at UCLA.
UCLA has some very exciting upcoming events. Let's take a look.
All right, Laef Morris is joining us. He is an athletic trainer for the UCLA Athletic Department, had worked with cross country and the track and field teams. A former college high jumper, he worked at Oregon and Sacramento State as a trainer. Now he's going to be taking care of the UCLA men's basketball team. Laef, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's talk about being a trainer and going and transitioning from being a competitive high jumper. Now, as a former athlete, you're still in the game, just doing it in a different capacity.
Absolutely. I have the best seats in the house. You know, I'm able to stand right there and watch what I used to do. And, you know, being a former high jumper and a basketball athlete, it helps me to know what the athletes need and helps me to get them back out there doing exactly what they need to do to compete at the highest level.
Well, and I would imagine that your time as an athlete makes it a little bit easier for you to communicate with the athletes so that maybe they listen to your advice a little bit better than you might have listened to a trainer's advice in the past.
Absolutely. It helps me bridge the gap between medical jargon and athlete, you know, what the terms that they use on the field and in the locker room. So,
let's talk about training specifically. Which are the best parts that you do each day? Is it the rehab? Is it the strengthening? Is it just injury prevention?
Well, I do a little bit of each one of those during the day, but my favorite would definitely have to be rehab because that's when we get them up off the tables. It's when we get them out moving around and getting them closer to what they need to be doing to get back out there.
Well, you talk about rehab, and people may not realize in some sports people obviously realize how beaten up the players get, but every athlete at UCLA really is taking quite a physical toll on their body, and your job is to, one, keep them on the field, but also to keep them healthy.
Absolutely. You know, it's a miracle to survive a sports season without an injury, no matter what the sport is. Some obviously have a higher injury rate than others, but you know, football, you don't see one kid get through. Basketball, usually you don't see a kid get through a season without getting nicked up, something happening to them. And track and field kind of is the same way. There are very few people that I don't see throughout the year.
Well, I would imagine that the difference between, say, just a little nick, a small injury, versus being hurt and unable to compete is a fine line that really prevention and training can keep them on the active side.
Absolutely. You know, that's I think that's where we as athletic trainers strive, is keeping those people that have a little bit of an injury or might be hurting a little bit but are still able to compete, keeping them going, you know, taping them back together, providing the duct tape to get them back out on the field and able to compete.
Well, there's an old saying, are you hurt or are you injured? Because if you're hurt, you can keep playing. If you're injured, you can't. And it's kind of keeping players to be hurt and not be injured.
Absolutely, and sometimes that's the hardest part of our job is determining, you know, can this person can this athlete get back out there and compete, or is it smarter to shut them down for today and live to fight another day?
Right.
Experience is something that is probably the most valuable in your industry. What have you learned over, your working experience that has taught you about special techniques for rehab and rehabilitation, all those kinds of things?
Oh, too numerous to mention. One of the nice things about working at UCLA is we are encouraged to do what's called continuing education. So my education didn't stop once I graduated from my master's. I constantly, throughout the day, there are 12 other athletic trainers in the training room. Everyone is in there. Everyone is doing their own special things, their own special techniques, and we learn off of each other. And in addition to that, we go out, we might go all the way across the country to attend a seminar of some nationally recognized athletic trainer, physical therapist, doctor, something on a specific topic, and then learn something there and bring it back and hopefully share it with everyone in the training room, so that they're not just one person going to a conference, but 13 people going to a conference.
On a day-to-day basis, what do you think the best injury prevention is for an athlete who isn't necessarily injured but just sore after a workout?
Sore after a workout, I would say definitely some sort of icing, whether it's a cold tub or just an ice bag. That just helps prevent the buildup of inflammation, and inflammation is what leads to pain and soreness. So just some sort of icing, and that will usually help you recover a little bit better.
Now, when you were working with the cross country and then the track teams, that's two separate teams and two opposite seasons. That must have kept you busy all year long with not really any off season because someone was always training.
Absolutely. Those distance athletes, they compete in cross country in the fall. They take about a day off, and then they get back at it because track season is just around the corner.
Right.
And then track season goes from January all the way through June. And again in June, they take a day off, and then they're right back at it because cross country season is just 3 months away. So they're busy all year round.
Well, and I would imagine that with any sport, people know that there are times when you're allowed to practice, not allowed to practice during the off season, but people are always working out, and unlike what some may think, they're still working out under watchful eyes. You're never letting UCLA athletes work out on their own without someone really looking after their well-being.
Well, you're right. There are NCAA rules as to when certain teams can practice throughout the year. But the thing about track and field is that it's not a team sport. So, a distance kid, a sprinter can go out onto the track, can go out onto the road and practice. They can go run, and they don't need a coach there watching them, giving them workouts. They know what they need to do. Now, while they're doing that, if something happens, if they need to get stretched out, if they need to come in and ice, or if they need treatment, we're there all year round to help them train so that they can compete at the highest level.
Let's move the focus now from track to the new sport that you're going to be doing coming up this year, which I think our viewers will be very interested about, which is basketball. So what are the new challenges that you see facing this job?
Well, basketball is obviously a different sport from track and field. Basketball is one of those sports where there are a lot of outside forces that can happen. In track and field, it's all about you and what you can do to do, whether it's 100 meters or 10,000 meters. It's just you and that finish line, and that's what it is. In basketball, you've got guys pounding on you. There are elbows, there are feet to step on, and so there are a lot of external forces, what we call, that impact the body. And so it's getting the athletes, ready to be prepared when those forces do hit them. When the guy has an elbow in the back, how does he react to that, and how does he keep himself from getting injured? So I think that's going to be obviously that, and there are a lot more eyes on the basketball team. So.
Well, I would imagine that what you do encounter is you get the younger players coming in, incoming freshmen, that could play basketball successfully with maybe a slighter build, and suddenly they come in and you talk about the external forces. That's the reason why as players mature into professional basketball, they need to get bigger. They need to be bulkier in order to just take the pounding of the game. It's not that the game itself has changed, but the players are different, and that's where the physical contact comes.
Absolutely, and one of the things that we do with all of our incoming freshmen is putting them through a biomechanical screen and looking at how their body moves, and we know what it takes to be successful at basketball, And once we put them through that screen, we can say, okay, this athlete needs to strengthen this muscle, this athlete needs to stretch this muscle so that they can move more efficiently and more powerfully to become a better athlete and have a lesser chance of getting injured.
Is that the biggest challenge that you face then in this new role?
Yes, just prevention, trying to prevent them from getting injured, because in the short term, prevention takes a lot of effort, but in the long term, hopefully it will make my job a lot easier come mid-season.
Absolutely.
UCLA is one of the biggest basketball programs of probably all time in college, and now you're going to be in the pressure and the spotlight probably a lot more than you were with track and field. How do you see the new pressures in your job? Are you excited, nervous, both?
Both, yes, absolutely. I'm very excited to work with UCLA basketball. Who wouldn't be? You wouldn't probably talk to a single athletic trainer in the country that wouldn't say, absolutely, that'd be a lot of fun to work. But that's what pressure is it's exciting, but at the same time, it's stressful. So, it's just meeting with the coaches, meeting with Coach Hallen before the season, getting to know each other's expectations, and I think that's one of the ways that definitely we're working currently and will continue to work to reduce those pressures and know how to approach the season and to work best together and accomplish both of our goals.
Well, we're here in the summertime. That doesn't mean that there isn't anything going on. The fact is you've already started working with players, haven't you?
Absolutely. In fact, once we're done here, I'm going to go work on a couple just down the road. So.
And again, you talk about the stresses and working with the coaches. There's going to be that inevitable time that you're going to have to go to one of the coaches and say, so-and-so can't practice today. That's probably not a task that you've had to face before.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a task that I've had to face because in any sport, an athlete gets injured and you have to go to the coach and say, this athlete's been injured, this is what's happened, this is what we're thinking it is, and this is about how long that we think the athlete's going to be out. Now, that part doesn't change. Now, what does change is, with basketball, there's obviously going to be a lot more. Coach Hallen's under a lot more pressure to win, and he needs to get his best athletes out there on the court. Now, hopefully, what he understands, and from my talks with him, what he does understand is that it's not worth it to get an athlete out there if he's just going to get injured again and prolong the amount of time that he's out. So what we have to come to an understanding on is, Coach, this happened. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. But we're going to both do the best that we can to get them back out there as quickly and as safely as possible.
Right.
Speaking of the pressure to win, you're going to have to use every tool at your disposal to win. So there has been a new technology. The Bod Pod's been added to the training room. How do you feel? Are you going to use those things more so than you did in your past job, or?
Absolutely. That's, I talked about continuing education. That's one of the things that we have to stay on top of. Is medicine is constantly evolving, and technology is pushing that further. One of the biggest, it might seem kind of trivial, but one of the biggest technologies that's helped is computerized injury tracking software. It helps us to not only to type up our medical notes, which saves a lot of time from handwriting them, but it also helps us to look at them, and we can go back and we can see what trends there have been, and maybe we can pick out something that has been a trend and figure out why that is, and strive to, again, to prevent that from happening in the future. We also have the Bod Pod, which is a $40,000 pod-looking, egg-looking thing that that the athletes can get in, and it very accurately measures their body fat percentage. We use that in conjunction with our nutritionists to make sure that they are staying healthy and that they are eating and fueling their bodies so that they can perform at the highest level.
Well, Laef, thanks for joining us and giving us this insight.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
I want to thank Laef for joining us here on UCLA Bruin Talk. Coming up, we'll talk to the head performance coach at UCLA. That's Mike Linn. So we're all right here on UCLA Bruin Talk.
A trophy can be made just about anywhere. But there's one place where champions are made. UCLA, champions made here.
Welcome back to UCLA Bruin Talk. Coming up, we're going to continue our performance talk as we're joined by Mike Linn. But first, Stephanie's got this week's Athlete of the Week.
This week we honor both Darren Collison and Jrue Holiday of the UCLA men's basketball team as our Student Athletes of the Week. Both were first-round NBA draft picks, with Holiday selected 17th by the Philadelphia 76ers and Collison selected 21st by the New Orleans Hornets. As guards, both started all 35 games while helping the Bruins compile a record of 26-9 and a runner-up finish in the Pac-10 Conference last season. As a first-team All-Pac-10 performer in 2008-2009 and a recipient of the Francis Pomeroy Naismith Award, Collison was second on the team in scoring, led the Bruins in assists and steals last season, and was 4th ranked nationally for free-throwing percentages. In just 1 year, Jrue achieved rankings of 9th in Pac-10 in assists, 4th in steals, and 6th in the assist and turnover ratio. Congratulations, Jrue and Darren, and good luck to the rest of the UCLA men's basketball team. If you would like additional information about UCLA athletics, please call our fan phone line at 310-825-8575 or visit our website at www.uclabruins.com.
Mike Linn is the head performance coach here at UCLA, a former Bruin football player. He graduated in 1993 and was the head strength and conditioning coach here at UCLA from 1999 to 2002. He then went on to work at St. Louis University in velocity performance before coming back to UCLA. He's now in his second year. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
First, let's talk about football. You played football. You work a lot with the football team. What are your goals for football performance for this coming year?
Well, if we can win more than 4 games, that's a good start. But no, the big thing going into the second year is just getting the kids obviously bigger and stronger and be able to compete on the national level. That's the reason why we were all brought back. Coach Neuheisel and bringing in the staff that he did and bringing me back is, there's high expectations with football now, and we certainly want to be able to compete at a national level. And to be able to do that, we got to get the guys bigger and stronger.
And I imagine that that's work that you're doing all year long. It really doesn't end in the fall. It continues through spring camp, but then it even continues during the summer just with conditioning and lifting.
Yeah. We tell when recruits come in, they don't realize when they come in for a recruiting trip, they're going to spend more time with us than anybody else on a college campus. And it's true. They're with us year round. This is probably the busiest time, the last 6 weeks before they report to camp. So they're with us for about 2.5 hours each day. Lifting, doing speed training and conditioning, and then they actually come back later in the night, in the evening time, and do their throwing. So it's a year-round job for them.
People may not realize just how vital it is to have proper training for a team. Can you talk about football specifically and what's important to be running a proper football team?
I think the biggest thing is just have a consistent program with high expectations in a coaching ratio. We have 1 coach to 12 athletes. So we're always, and it's not just football, it's any one of our teams, we're coaching the athletes at all times. Where some programs, they might get a lifting, a folder, and they go off and they kind of do their own thing, and the coach is really there just supervising. The most important thing is that we understand that we're educators and we're coaches, and we're there to motivate the athletes and help them improve their technique with the exercises so that they stay safe in the room, but also so they can achieve their goals and get out on the field and stay healthy and be able to perform at a high level.
Well, and part of lifting also, there is a bonding element that, again, you talk about the individual athlete. If they're just given a folder to go work out, they're doing it on their own. Whereas what you're describing is the teams working out together, so it becomes like a practice all year round.
Yeah, it's in the off season and the preseason. We're in the preseason now. That's where leadership's born. We tell football players and other athletes of other teams, the leadership's not born in the locker room at halftime when the team's down and someone's got to get up and make a rah-rah speech. It's really born in the off season when one of those older players steps up to the plate and inspires the rest of his teammates to push through a workout. And those are the little things that we do, and it can only be accomplished when the whole team's trained together.
Now, as the head of strength and conditioning up until 2002, what was it like coming back to this position? It's a position you held, but times have changed, teams have changed, technology's changed, and you've changed.
Yeah, I really have. I'll admit, in the past I was probably a little bit more archaic, like a lot of strength coaches were, and really more preoccupied about how much weight was on the bar and not so much the form or the speed of the movement. We've really, my opportunity to leave UCLA and get involved with a company like Velocity Sports Performance on a national level, where we were training athletes to get ready for the NFL Combine or Major League Baseball or the NBA Draft, or even to get off and play tennis around the world. We had to embrace technology because those clients were paying a lot of money. to see improvements. So coming back to UCLA, we've integrated a lot of that technology. The Bod Pod is something that we've brought in. We've got an exercise metabolic cart, so we can determine how to train athletes conditioning-wise, proper heart rate zones. All those things are things that we brought back to get the athletes really to improve and be able to quantify improvement instead of saying, well, he looks bigger and yeah, he's a little bit stronger. We want to quantify to the nth degree.
What I hear from you is there's a lot of change. And there is a new bell down in the training room that is particularly of interest. Can you explain that to our viewers?
Yeah, we've established these 3 performance bells down in the room, and what that is any athlete, not just football, if an athlete's about ready to perform a personal best in the weight room, the coach will ring that bell, and every athlete in the room, doesn't matter what sport they are, will come up to that lifting platform that the athlete's at and encourage that athlete to hit that PR and get everybody excited, and again, just really getting people to understand they're part of a bigger thing. It's not just football, it's not just basketball, it's a big athletic department, and our goal, our department goal is to get back in the prominence of winning the Sears Cup. For your viewers who are maybe not aware of the Sears Cup, but that's awarded every year to the school that ranks the highest in their points with national championships and the like. So to be able to do that, everybody's going to be on the same page, and the performance bell helps us do that.
Well, and again, it probably helps the athlete who's trying because they're getting support from everyone, but it also increases the sense of community so that it really is a full athletic department and not a collection of sports.
Exactly.
And now we talk about that and you talk about community. You came back to UCLA, your alma mater.
Yeah.
More excitement, more pressure, more both? I mean, do you feel like it's more on your shoulders because it is your alma mater and you want to perform that much more?
Well, you know, it's probably more excitement than anything. My wife was an athlete at UCLA. Both of my kids were born at the hospital at UCLA. I mean, we're true Bruins. It doesn't get much more Bruins than that. But certainly a lot of pressure, obviously, with football. I mean, like I said, Coach Neuheisel asked me to come back to kind of help finish what we started back in the late 90s with football. We were a game away from playing in that first national championship, and I was on that staff. And so it's kind of unfinished business coming back. But it's great to be back. It's great to have the staff that I do, and everybody's on the same page. And again, the goal of our department is to help our athletes achieve at a high level.
Well, and again, with your department, with the football staff, a lot of alums, just like yourself. And again, I think there's all that sense that really want to improve UCLA, not just win games like a lot of staffs would.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, it's a special place. Like you said, when you've got a lot of alums on staff, not just football, with the other sports, when recruits come in, we can talk about how special the education is at UCLA and to be a part of that community and stuff. And recruits will buy into that because they know we went there, we lived it, and we did it. So.
Yeah, it's not just a line, it's actual truth.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel after your first year the new football team is doing? Are the players stronger?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've made great gains in the room. Again, we can quantify those. Within a year, we gained over 600 pounds in muscle mass on the football team. So it's not just 600 pounds just for the sake of gaining 600 pounds. It's 600 pounds of muscle mass, and we've improved in our lifts and our speed and our power and explosion. So hopefully that correlates to the football field. I know we did a great job this last year with the recruiting class, so it always helps when you got great athletes coming in. That makes us look like we know what we're doing when we're working with great athletes. So it's only time will tell, and it's going to get here pretty quick. So
we touched on the new technology. When you bring in some new recruits, whether in any sport, but especially with football, and you show them some of the new machines like the Bod Pod, do their eyes kind of get wide, like what kind of place am I in? I mean, is the technology so new that they probably have never seen it coming into the room?
You know, we get a mix. We're fortunate, being at UCLA, we're fortunate because we do get a lot of athletes who have had opportunity to train at high-level facilities. Football, basketball, certainly our other Olympic sports. We get athletes that train down at the IMG academies down in Florida. We get athletes that train at Athletes Performance down in Arizona, and they're very accustomed to a very high level of training. So when they come out on the recruiting trip, they're very excited about, hey, this is just going to continue for me here at UCLA. Right. And then we do get some of those athletes where it's hard not to kind of talk above their head of the technology, and they kind of get lost in it all. we sense that, and that's when we just kind of look at them and we tell them, hey, there's no magic bullet here. It's just hard work, and that's what we're here to do. So.
Well, I would imagine that when you came back a year ago, starting to implement those things that you had learned while away from UCLA of really, you know what, this really would help this program, this would really help, and seeing it blossom, seeing the things show up in the weight room really has to be rewarding for you.
Yeah, it is, and it helps with buy-in with the athletes. I mean, but the athletes are going to have better buy-in when they see results. And again, we can quantify those results and show it to them on paper. It's, you know, you can't put a value on that. You know, they're going to buy into it even more.
You mentioned you played on 2 bowl teams here at UCLA. Do you think the experience that you got from that, the players respect you more, or you just understand what they're going through?
You know, I think anytime a former athlete can come back and work with kids, I think they automatically respect you a little bit more because they know you've been through it and stuff like that. So that certainly helps. You know, I think probably more being on that last staff when UCLA was, you know, kicking the tails across town. I think that gains some respect too, because you know, a lot of our current football players lose sight of that you know, this rivalry is secular, and there was a time where we reeled off a lot of wins against the crosstown foes over there, and being a part of that staff, they understand that, hey, we're gonna get them back. So.
Going back to your time at UCLA, was there a point where you just realized that physical training and growth was really the direction for you?
As a player, yeah, you know, it was interesting. I was one of those athletes that ended up getting hurt my junior year, and spent some more time in the training room than I would have liked to, and I ultimately had to take a medical red shirt. I knew I wanted to be a coach. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to be a football coach or a strength coach, but just understanding how much work I had to put into getting back on the field and training. That kind of opened the doors and got me excited about possibly getting other people motivated to, again, you know, get bigger and stronger on the football side of things, and you know, the other sports getting more explosive and injury prevention and all that stuff.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yep.
I want to thank Mike Linn as well as Laef Morris for joining us here in UCLA Bruin Talk, and thank you for joining us as well as we take our inside look at the UCLA athletic departments right here at UCLA Bruin Talk.